I'm Tiffany, and this is Towering TBR. Today is the last week of the Magical Readathon vlog. It's actually going to be a little bit longer than a week since I'm going to include the rest of the days as well in this month. I have read some more stuff on my Kindle. I have read some more of The Invisible Kingdom. She's talked a lot about the power of positive thinking and how this toxic positivity is pushed on people who are dealing with stress or pain or just any kind of illness, and that the flip side of that is that if you don't get better, that it's somehow your fault. You're not trying hard enough, or you're not thinking positive thoughts. You're whatever control you have over it, it isn't enough. And I think that is a really important factor that a lot of people just don't think about. They don't think about their empty platitudes as necessarily being harmful, but they can be. She's also talked a lot about how there are days that she thinks she can't go on in this way any longer. She can't endure the pain for 1 second longer. She can't endure the lack of physical energy, the mental fortitude. And she cited that it's very common for people to have depression with chronic illness because the imagery that you have to fight your body day in and day out, it's incredibly draining and wearing. And I think that that's something that people don't necessarily get if they aren't chronically ill. If they experience acute illness like the flu or something, and they're like, oh yeah, I know how bad it is to be in this much pain, to be sleep deprived, to do nothing but sleep. But to know you have to do that day in and day out, and there's just no break, and there is no getting better. She talks about how isolating and how draining that is on a body. And yeah, I'm still agreeing with my earlier sentiments. I think that this is a really good book, and I'm identifying with it quite a lot. Personally, she's talking more about getting a Lyme's disease diagnosis, and how that's a very medically fraught area because there's just so much controversy and unknowns. So anyways, this is great, and I think I'm almost 200 pages into it. I also picked up Queenie, which is the last book I need to read for a prompt, which was somebody's worst list. And I remember I said that Mercedes DNF'd this, and I want to DNF this, but I think it would be too hard to find a replacement since this was the hardest one for me to find in the first place. But this is about Queenie. She's a Jamaican British woman in her early 20s, and her boyfriend and her have just gone on a break because she doesn't ever open up to him. And so she decides to be sexually promiscuous and sleep with a bunch of men who she doesn't use protection with. And I have a feeling that this is going to be what is called millennial fiction. A messy early 20s woman making a rash of bad decisions, and we love her anyway. Like, it's feeling very much like a Sarah Rooney type book, and I don't like those types of books. However, I think finishing it will be quicker than trying to find a replacement. But I don't have high hopes. Like most, I think maybe will be 3 stars. Because it's just so hard to watch a character make so many bad decisions, and it's like things would be better if you'd stop doing that. But yeah, so let's see, 115 pages in, and she also seems to be quite deluded that she's going to get back together with her boyfriend. Like, he asked her to move out. She has moved out, and he says that he wants a break to think on things, and then is like not communicating with her at all. It's like, I don't understand why she thinks that they're going to get back together again. It's obviously a breakup. But yeah, these are the 2 books I'm reading. I have had a hold come in. I have actually had 2 holds come in. Heat Wave by T.J. Klune, which is the 3rd book in the Extraordinaries trilogy. And this is a gay YA superhero book. And then I've also had I Hear the Sunspot by Yuki Fumino, which is a manga that I'm really excited about. So I'm hoping I can get those 2 in by the end of this vlog as well. But the 2 I'm working on are my priorities. So yeah, I am hoping to check off these 2 prompts that I'm still working on and fit in whatever else strikes my fancy. So thank you for joining, and if you haven't seen parts 1, 2, or 3, I will link them in the cards. Thanks. Hey, so I have now finished The Invisible Kingdom. That is for my challenge to read The Color Wheel, which was light blue, and it was very great. I just finished it, so I haven't decided yet how I'm going to rate it. But I think this book is incredibly important and well researched. I have 2 quotes that I want to share that are kind of linked. The first is, to be chronically ill is to be in a state of ever-present camouflaged grieving, the historian Jennifer Stitt put. And yeah, I think that was a really important message for her to convey, that when you become chronically ill, you are grieving. You're grieving the normal, healthy life that you thought you might have had. There's so much emphasis on your job and your family being part of your sense of self. And when you find you can't work, or you decide not to have children because you don't feel like you can manage that with your chronic illness, you have to give up parts. And it can really mess with your sense of self. And I thought that was really well put. But that's one of the hardest parts of chronic illness, is giving up parts of yourself that you expected or thought you would be. And yeah, so I don't know how I'm going to rate this book just yet, but I found it really impactful. And I also learned way more than I wanted to learn about fecal transplants. So it is pretty sciencey, and there are some kind of gross things. So if that's not something you can handle, maybe this wouldn't be the book for you. But I was completely blown away by it, and I just have to decide if the gross sciencey bits change the rating for me or not. And I've also read some more of Queenie by Candace Carty-Williams. I think I am on page 241, so nearly there. She is continuing to make bad decisions. I am enjoying it more now, even though I stand by my statement that this feels like a Sally Rooney book, or, millennial fiction type book. Yeah, so she's gotten herself in a mess at work, and she has upset one of her best friends to the point where they're no longer speaking. And yeah, she keeps having sex with people that she doesn't even really want to have sex with and doesn't enjoy it, but is so afraid of being alone that she puts up with like the bare minimum. Yeah, she's kind of a sad character, but I have a hard time feeling pity towards her because she keeps making bad decisions. She's not learning from her mistakes, which is a frustrating trait to read about. But I don't have much left, so I will finish this, and this will help me complete my career as an Archmage, so that's exciting. I am still planning to pick up some more books, but I guess you'll see when I talk about them some more. All right, till I have more. Bye. Okay, well, I have officially finished the magical readathon with Queenie being the last prompt that I fulfilled. I'm actually glad I stuck with this. I am going to give it 3 stars, but I liked Queenie as a character, and I felt like she did actually grow, which is sometimes missing from those plots. Yeah, I don't want to give away how it ends, but I felt like it was a very satisfactory ending, and I grew to like this character and not just pity her quite a lot. So, yeah, this was for a book that was on somebody's worst list. And then, now that I'm not constrained by prompts, I have picked up another mood read, which is Dancing After 10, a graphic memoir. This is by Vivian Chong and Georgia Weber, and it's Vivian Chong's story of her adverse reaction to a medication and how that triggered a terrible illness that caused her not only so much pain, and she had to be in a coma, but she also lost her sight and some of her hearing. And she does get a cornea transplant, which gives her about 20% of her vision. And that's when she decided to write and draw parts of this book. Because of the very nature of her not having sight, that makes drawing quite difficult. And so her drawings are very crude. They're very childlike. But her story is just amazing. Like, she's living with conditions that are quite difficult, and she's quite isolated. So many people rely on sight and take it for granted, and yeah, I just really enjoyed reading her story, and it just really moved me. It was the last page that I really, really loved, but I feel like it would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to share it. But this was great, and I highly recommend it. So that was all of my prompts. I will try to give you some sort of scorecard of what the prompts were and what books I read to fulfill each of these prompts. Yeah, and I guess I'll just pick up whatever I feel like next. All right, I will update you when I have more. Bye. Hey, so I have picked up Heatwave by TJ Klune. This is the 3rd book in the Extraordinaries trilogy. It follows this teenage group of friends who are kind of obsessed with superheroes. They're called Extraordinaries. They have some sort of like magical power. And yeah, because this is the 3rd book, I can't really get into too many details, but it's super fun, and there's really positive relationships. They talk about consent. They talk about other more meaningful things. But it's also sort of just funny. The main character, Nick, is pretty awkward, and he's constantly putting his foot in his mouth, and it's just, he's a fun character to read. And so in this third installment, the group is following the fact that a villain from the first book might be coming back, and what are they going to do to protect themselves. So I'm really enjoying this. There's also a fanfic element. Nick writes erotic fanfic for Extraordinaries, and it's super cringy, but in a way that teen fanfic is super cringy, and I think that kind of just makes it a little bit more authentic, and it is probably not a book I would have picked up, except for the fact that I love TJ Klune, and I think that he's just a really fun writer, and he gives gay characters happy endings, which completely flies in the face of the trope of bury your gays, meaning that the gay character usually dies off or has something horribly tragic happen to them. And that's not to say that, like, the characters in this book don't go through any challenges, but yeah, he wanted books that had happy endings for gay people, and that's one of the things I love about him. He also is obsessed with the word cerulean. He uses it in the book House in the Cerulean Sea. He uses it in Under the Whispering Door. And he uses it in this book. And this is the 7th TJ Klune book I am reading. And I'm not sure if cerulean shows up in those other books, but it's kind of like a, I don't know, like a hidden Easter egg or something. Just, he loves the word cerulean. So I am about 100 pages in, and I think it's a little more than 300 pages. So I should be able to finish this in probably a day or two. So I will let you know how my reading's going when I check in again. Bye. Okay, so I have finished Heatwave by TJ Klune. This is the 3rd book in the Extraordinaries trilogy, and I thought it ended with a very satisfying ending. We got to see some villains from the first book come back, and yeah, I love the characters, I love the epilogue, and I just thought this was a really fun read. I gave it 3 stars. Just because a lot of it's very predictable and YA, so there's some teen angst. But for the most part, it was just a great read. So that officially ends my vlogging experience of the Magical Readathon in the autumn equinox. I'm curious, how did you all do with yours if you were pursuing a career? And maybe you've only heard about it now and maybe will want to participate. Tell me if you're interested in participating when it starts back up in April. All right, I really hope you enjoyed the vlog. Thank you for watching and joining me. Bye.